Hi, this is Oliver with Morgan Property Solutions. I'm one of the lead property managers here, and I wanted to give you an insight into the practices that we use to do a move-out inspection. This is one of the properties that we manage in Orlando, Florida. It's a single-family, 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. Pretty standard style property for the ones that we manage. We do condos, townhouses, single family, some multi-family, so a variety, but this is probably one of the most popular styles of rental investment property. So let's get started. So as part of this basic tour to our move-out process for inspections, it's very similar to a move-in process. There's a couple of extra steps that we do. An inspection like this usually takes us about 1.5 to all the way about 3.5 hours, just depending on the type of the property and the square footage, if there's a pool, etc. And so today I'm going to just walk you through the property on some basic practices that we use. One of the first steps we take when retrieving possession of the property or taking over possession of the vacant property is we have the tenant along with their move-out checklist of items, which is a one-page form that shows them all the things that they need to do to receive a full refund of deposit minus their cleaning fees. We go ahead and we give them a confirmation of vacating premises form. This, when they sign this, it does two things. One, it releases the full possession of the property to us and relinquishes any rights to any personal belongings that they may have left that we think are junk and we dispose of. It also gives us a forwarding address for them, which helps in the security deposit claim process. They're supposed to return this form to us. This is actually an older style form. We now have a section that they can put on the number of keys and access devices we're returning when they show up at our office. And you can see here, these are the access devices. We have a gate access clicker, 2 garage clickers, a pool key, irrigation control key, mailbox key, and some front door keys. So you can see there's quite a lot of access devices to keep track of here, and our software helps us do that. We make a note of all of the keys that we have on file, and we make sure that we check those when we go ahead and process the deposit claim and at move out as well, so that we know we have all of the right access devices for the next tenant. So once we have checked that, we can get into the property. We can start, if we need to, get the utilities on, if the old tenant has turned them off already, and then we can arrange the move out cleanings, whether it's house cleaning, carpet cleaning, etc., and see if there's any repairs that need doing. Now, for a move-out inspection like this, since we've already done a move-in inspection, we go ahead and we use a software that tracks all of our inspections. It's one of the top of the line inspection softwares out there. We use it on our mobile devices, and it syncs all of our routine and move-in and move-out inspections. It allows us to go ahead and do a move-in inspection, and then whether it's a year or 5 years later, when we do our move-out inspection, it'll create a side-by-side report of the inspection results. So line-by-line items for condition of walls, floors, appliances, exterior, interior, etc., side by side with all the photos that we take. Our inspections that we use are very detailed. Not many people do these detailed inspections, but we find that it really benefits our landlords. We don't charge any extra for it, it's just part of the normal service that we do. And we feel it also helps the security deposit claim process go a lot smoother, because you really have an accurate picture of the property, a whole snapshot of the property before and after move in and move out. And then it's fair to both the tenant and the landlord, because you're not accidentally overcharging the tenant for damage that might have already been present when they moved in. And you know, we're all human, we can only remember so much, so pictures do say 1,000 words. And the other note I wanted to make was that we don't do a video. I know there are some people out there that like to do a walkthrough video of the property. It's a lot easier and quicker to do that as a property manager, but unfortunately the definition of and the quality of the pictures that you get in the video are not up to par. Even if you're doing a 1080p high definition video, if you freeze frame each frame, you still don't get the quality that you do with a good quality photograph. And that helps if there's damage that's not so easy to see. You can see it better in still shots. So we're starting here in the foyer. We usually start on the inside of the property, and we have a few different checks for each part of the home. So for each area, for the foyer, for the living room, the bedroom, for those living spaces, we have a checklist of items. So we go ahead and we take pictures of everything. We're going to take multiple photographs, usually about a dozen or even double that per area. So it's a lot of photographs that we take. And we find that the more photographs, the better. If we're already doing an inspection of the property and it's going to take us an hour and a half to do the inspection, if it takes us an extra 15 to 20 minutes to take double, triple the amount of photographs, then why not? Just brings the extra quality to the inspection and helps overall. So as far as in this foyer, what we're going to do, we're going to take pictures of the door. We're going to open and close the door, make sure that the locks work and they don't stick. We're going to go ahead and we're going to look at the walls. We're going to look at these baseboards down here. We're going to look at the overall condition of the flooring, check that there's no cracked tiles on this area. We're going to look at other things like the baseboard here. We're going to just make sure that it's not encrusted with dirt, because tenants don't tend to like that when they move in and have dirty baseboards throughout. So we have a look at that. We're going to have a look at the light switches. This is one of the things that the cleaners will go ahead and they'll wipe the top of that light switch when we're done there. Not too concerned with that because the cleaners are going to take care of that, but it's more damage items and things that pop out to us that we're going to take a note of. Some tenants, when they move out, will paint, and that can be a good thing. It can be a bad thing as well, just depending on the quality of the painting. They're usually supposed to ask us for permission. When they do that, we do instruct them of how to do some basic touch-ups when they move out, but we'll go into that in another video on maintenance and repairs. So, for example, things we're looking at on walls are the patchiness of the paint. If there's a lot of touch-ups that don't match, which really bring it to an unacceptable level, and then we'll be looking at possibly doing some repainting on some areas. And then also just plain dirt, if the walls are heavily soiled. This looks pretty good in here. I'm going to go ahead and take a bunch of photos now, and then I'll get back on. The next area we're going to check is the ceiling. So we're going to have a look at the light fixtures, make sure that the bulbs are all working, see if they're dusty, if they need cleaning, and also if there are any broken light fixtures as well. We also have the doorbell buzzer here, so we want to test the doorbell, make sure that works, make sure our switches work, and then we're good to go. So now we've done the foyer, the living room, we're just about to do the bedrooms, but next up in the main living area is the kitchen. And this is one of the rooms that takes the longest, because not only do we have just basic doors, windows and floors and ceilings, we also have appliances, cabinetry, sinks, all sorts of good stuff to take photos of and test. So one of the things we do is, after we've checked out all of our walls, taken our photographs of the inside and outside of the cabinets, we've opened up the drawers, we've opened up the cabinets, seen if there's any water damage under the sink, seen if there's any caulking that's needed around the countertops. We have to go ahead and test the plumbing. So we make sure the plumbing is all running. We make sure that we have hot water, which is a good test for the hot water heater. With this faucet, there's 2 modes, so make sure that's all working. We're checking at the condition of here. It's pretty dirty, but I don't see any damage. There's some slightly rusty marks right here. We'll get those in the photos. There's no garbage disposal on this one. Normally we would go ahead and just run that with the water running for a few seconds, make sure there's nothing in there blocking that. Next is the oven range. So this oven range is an older style 4-ring oven range. One of the things we want to take a look at is these drip pans. They can get pretty rusty after a while. So at that point, if they're uncleanable, we have to replace them. That's just normal maintenance. Can't charge a tenant for that. It just happens. Things that we do look out for on this oven range there are scratches along here. We want to look at how long the tenant has been here, what condition this control panel was like when they moved in. Just make sure it's not tenant damage. Could just be wear and tear. That would be something to discuss with the landlord if it becomes an issue. And then inside the oven range right here, we want to make sure everything is present. We have one rack. Usually these come with 2 racks, and that's something that we could discuss with a tenant if they're unhappy with that. Then we could talk about the landlord about possibly providing 2 racks, but everything else looked pretty good in here. We're good to go. We can check that off the list. We go ahead and turn the oven on very carefully. We test the oven rings, just feeling the heat off of them. We'll see them glow if they're working good. We also turn the main oven on as well, leave them on for a few minutes. We want to make sure everything's working for the new tenant. There's a very nice French door refrigerator that we have here. We'll take a look in here. One of the things we look at in our refrigerator is we just open the doors up, make sure that we have no cracked doors. Sometimes tenants will accidentally crack a door, and we don't want to miss that move out. We want to make sure that if they have caused any damage, that we go ahead and we replace the door and charge them accordingly for that damage. Accidents happen, but these things are tenants' responsibilities. We want to make sure that the drawers are opening and closing well, like this. It only takes a few seconds to check these things, but it's really worth it in the long run. Not only we're checking for just damages, but we're just checking for routine maintenance. I did run the dishwasher when I first got here. That's one of the things I usually do, turn the dishwasher on and run it through a cycle. I want to make sure it doesn't leak and that it makes a full cycle and it's clean inside. This is pretty good. One of the maintenance issues and damages that we often come across is leaks under sinks, and we incorporate this not only into our move-in, move-out inspections, but also into our annual routine inspections. Because it's so common, we take a quick look under the sink cabinets, and we look at any signs of water damage. And you can see on this property that yes, there is actually signs of water damage right here. Pots and things have been put here, but quite often these pipes end up leaking or weeping, and that's something that we have to keep aware of. Make sure that there's no mold growing out in there. We'll want to make sure we clean that out. There are some areas here where either cleaning products or leaks from the piping has got into that. It's not very severe. Most of this is actually dirt, but there is some water damage in there, and you can handle this a couple of different ways. You can either just leave it alone, just clean it up, leave it alone. You can go ahead and replace the wood that's down there. My main concern that it's not wet, because if it's still wet, the move in or move out, that shows that there's probably an ongoing leak from somewhere, from the plumbing, and then we needed to get that taken care of and then take out the wood and replace it so that we don't have any dreaded mold or mildew issues. So I'm in one of the bedrooms right now, the master bedroom, and again we're going to take lots and lots of pictures in here. We're going to take multiple pictures of the walls, the floors, the ceiling. We're going to get pictures of the blinds, both sides of the doors, and also the ceiling fan. We're going to test that. We're also going to try to get a close-up picture of it, just make sure it's not damaged, it's actually turning and working okay, and there's no bulbs blown. And then on the window, we're just going to have a basic check of that, make sure there's no damage and that the window's actually locked and safe and secure. Inside this master bathroom, we're going to check the sinks. So we have a double sink right here. We're going to make sure we turn on the faucets right here. I usually leave those on, and then we go ahead and check under the sink for any leaks. So that helps us ascertain whether there's active ongoing leaks from the plumbing. And then we go ahead and flush the toilet right here. Make sure that actually does give us a full flush. And also make sure it's not leaking at the bottom as well. And then as far as the shower, on this bathroom we just have a walk-in shower. We're going to go ahead and we're going to take a look at a few things. We're going to take a look and make sure there's no stains, that there's no mold and mildew build-up from behind here. That's a pretty common issue. We're going to look at the caulking around the edges right here. This is actually all grout. Don't see any caulk around here, but there's no cracking or anything, so we're safe there. We just need to do a good scrubbing, a good cleaning, and we'll be okay. Another issue that we find sometimes is these soap dispensers right here. Sometimes the water hits them on the side, curls around and gets underneath them. This one's fairly high up, so it's easy to see, but some of them are pretty low, and if there's a crack under there you can get some water intrusion. We've had that a couple of times in the past. And then other things that we look at are the shower heads. This one's a nice new shower head, a pretty plain standard one, looks good. Sometimes as the years progress, those can get all groggy and clogged up with dirt, so we have to look at replacing those every so often. But everything else looks pretty good in here. We're going to get photos of all these walls, the fixtures, the ceiling, all of that. One maintenance item and damage item that we see a lot of is window blinds, especially patio door blinds as well. Lots of different types of blinds. We have the cheap 1-inch horizontal blinds, fairly cheap to replace, highly recommended. You get those, they come in usually standard sizes at Home Depot, they don't cost a lot. And considering the amount of window blinds that get broken, we usually have that as a maintenance item if they're a few years old. If a tenant moves in about a year ago and we have a whole bunch of broken window blinds, then we got to charge them out of their deposit. But one of the other things we see is these horizontal blinds, and you can tell this blind is a textured style. And the problem with having this in your rental property is this is going to be very difficult to replace because it's not a standard color. And if one of these breaks, we've got to get creative. If we have extra blinds somewhere, or if we have extra blinds at the ends that we can move to the middle and relocate them, then we'll try to do that and save some money where it's not needed, where it's needed. But you can see on this blind, the tenant must have broken a couple of these and has put a couple of zip ties up here, which isn't ideal. So we're going to have to figure out whether to replace those, just the slats or the whole blind rail, depending on if we find any others that are broken. I'm over here by the AC thermostat, and we go ahead and we turn this on when we first get to the property, just to make sure that it actually does turn on, that it clicks on. You can kind of hear it click on then, and then that it achieves the desired temperature. So if it's 78 when we get to the property, we put it down to 74. Within an hour, we should at least get it a couple of degrees, if not all the way to 74. So that's a simple check. And then the next step is having a look at the AC filter. I'm here inside the garage, of which in this property has the air conditioning system. It looks pretty good. It looks nice and clean outside. They don't all look this clean. They do get some of them a little bit of mildew and mold on them that has to be wiped down every so often, especially if you have them in the garage like this. And right here we're going to take a look at the AC filter. So this one just pulls out right here, and I see here we have a washable style. This AC filter is washable. What that means is that every month or two you have to take this outside and you have to wash it under the hose bib outside the house to clean it up. Doesn't look too bad. Looks okay. It's got little stains over it, but it's not clogged up with dirt or anything, so we're good to go there. This is one of the things I love to see at a property: touch-up paint and floor tiles. Now, whenever I see these, I always tell everyone to leave these alone because these are really important to the upkeep and maintenance of the property. You have some other things here. I think there's some fiberglass resin. I'm not sure why that's here, but you do have some garage floor paint, which this garage is very nicely painted. The tenant actually left this painted, so that was very nice of them. And then we have some wall paint for the green. We have some beige right over here, and then we have some exterior paint as well as some grout and tile for the bathrooms and the floors. Very, very useful, because what happens often is that tiles get discontinued shortly after they are manufactured, and then to find a matching tile if you break one or if someone breaks one is very, very hard. So they can be replaced. Tile is one of the toughest, most durable floorings, and I highly recommend it above all other floorings in Florida. Very easy to clean, very easy to maintain. It costs more up front, but it saves you money over the years by many folds compared to having to replace carpet every 3 to 5 years minimum. Now we check the operation of the garage door. Very quiet, very smooth, lights working, comes up all the way and back down again. Looking good. Now we make sure we get a picture of both sides, make sure there's no dents or damage. The next check is the breaker panel. We open that up, see everything's clearly marked, that's great. And then we look at our breakers, everything's fine, nothing's reset. And we're going to take a picture of this, of course. So one of the appliances that we turn on when we get to a property to do an inspection is the washing machine. We try to do a full cycle in a wash and make sure that it reaches a full cycle, that there's no weird noises coming out of it, and that it doesn't leak over the floor. So pretty basic checks, but we need to run those to make sure there's no obvious signs of issues straight up with the washing machine. And then we also run the dryer as well. We usually run that just for a few seconds, make sure it gets hot, that there's no odd noises coming out of it, and we obviously can't run a full load of laundry through there, but those basic checks will eliminate 90% of the problems up front. One of the next items on our checklist is the dryer filter. Looks okay. Out of the couple of hundred items we have on our move in and move out checklist is the exterior items. Things like walls, things like driveways, paths, back patios, window screens, patio screens. We try to check everything, all the lights on the outside of the property, if there's any fences, the condition of the front and the backyard. We also make a note of the location of the water shut-off valve for the property, whether it's a valve that's on the side of the house or one that we can't find that's possibly by the front of the street. We make a notation of all of that. It's very useful if a tenant ever calls in with an emergency to know where those items are. So we try to go ahead and get on top of those, ahead of those issues at the move-in inspection. And one of the things we have here is our window screens. We want to make sure the windows have the appropriate screening, that there's no holes in them, that the window's not cracked visibly. That we want to take a look at the condition of the concrete right here, make sure there's no really bad staining or anything. This one was actually pressure washed a couple of months ago, just needs a sweeping, looks good. Our gutter system, we want to take a quick look at our gutters, make sure there's no damage, that they are present and not missing for some reason. And sometimes we have ones that go missing in a windstorm, so we want to check those. And then the condition of our fences as well. And fences is a difficult one because you know, it's difficult sometimes figuring out who owns the fence. So that's where our owners try to help us the most. If we have fence issues, we try to contact the owners, just make sure that we're not going to go ahead and get an estimate or repair someone else's fence, the neighbor's fence. But it's one thing that we have on our list as well. So we're on the other side of the property and look what we found. we found our water shut-off valve right here. Okay, we actually already noted this on one of the previous inspections, but it's always good to take a look and make sure that valve is still there. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to take a picture of it, as we love pictures. And this is our exterior AC compressor system, and it is dripping away right there, which is perfectly normal. There is your drain line or condensate line that's supposed to do that when the air conditioning system is running, and obviously that shows that is not blocked, that is going well, and I don't see any damage on the unit, so we're good to go. One thing we tend to find that landlords forget about is landscaping, and curb appeal still applies when you're renting a house as well as selling it. It's important because there are a lot of tenants around who are good qualified tenants, and they're looking for well-maintained properties. So just topping up the red mulch, making sure you've got some nice looking plants, it doesn't take a lot, and it goes far. As you can tell during my inspection, I haven't really made many decisions as far as pointing the blame to tenants or landlords on who's responsible for maintenance and repairs. I've just given some basic guidelines. And at the inspection, it's the inspector's job to just go ahead and record the condition of the property, and not necessarily just jump to a conclusion on who's responsible for that repair. So when you get an inspection report from us, if it's something basically obvious to the inspector that this was damage caused by the tenant, then they may notate that on the inspection. But a lot of it will just be descriptions about the damages that are found, and repair items and recommended items for repair. They won't actually make a determination on who's responsible for that repair. So don't be alarmed if you see different items on there. They may not all be tenant damage, they may be. Our office will be in contact with you at a later time beyond that inspection to give you advice on what to claim and what not to claim in the deposit process. Most of that process is taken care of automatically if it's just some minor items, but we'll be in contact with you if there's anything major on there that we're really concerned about, that we think could be in a grey area that might cause trouble for you in the claim process. We have a lot of experience in deposit claims. We know what to expect as far as maintenance and damages and what the differences are. So if you have any questions or concerns about that, we'd love to provide you some information on that. We have a flyer that outlines the basic differences between those, and we can go into a conversation in more detail about it. So I'm now finished with my inspection, and I'm just sitting in my car going through the finalization of the report on my cell phone. We have a software that goes ahead and takes all the checklist items and the photos and puts it all together in a nice, clean, professional looking PDF report. It's pretty long. We don't usually print it out because of all the photos. So the PDF allows us to email it and send the link to you as a landlord, and also to the tenants as well when they request a copy. And we'll get that sent off now by email. And if there's any maintenance, then we'll go ahead and copy and paste those, get those on a work order, get an estimate, or if there's some minor items, we'll get those just taken care of automatically to keep the property maintained and for the next tenant coming in. I hope this has been insightful and just gives you a quick insight into the practices of our move-in and move-out inspections. If you have any questions, you can comment below or just send us an email. We'd be happy to talk to you.